good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is, wherever you are, whether you're here live or on the replay, welcome. I'm Ann Murphy, and I'm here with a few of my colleagues from Light Magic AI, and we're super excited today to share a little bit about our own journeys in getting up and running with generative AI, because hopefully this is super relatable because there are no experts. We all try to be experts. We all suffer from imposter syndrome now and then. And we're here to encourage you to hop into this stream wherever you are, whenever you can, because the water is relatively warm. And we're going to be here for a tight hour. We invite you to drop questions for us, drop gems that you might have into the comments, whether you're here live or later. Drop your comments, because we always go back over time and check to see if anybody has any questions. And then, of course, totally feel free to reach out and DM any of us. And for those of you who also like to consume content on other platforms, this goes on to YouTube and Tyler,
Facebook and YouTube, Twitter, all the
Twitter,
places.
all the
Yeah.
places. Currently, it doesn't stream into TikTok, but we are going to get all the cheat codes and make that happen someday, even if we have to break the internet to make it happen, because we are undeterred. So as people come on, I wanted to just drop in with one question for Sarah and Tyler before we get into our main topic, which is, thinking about this year. Last year, I think a lot of us felt like it was the year of engagement with the tools, dipping our toe into the water, getting super confused, and having fun going down those rabbit holes, and just getting comfortable with the idea of being building in public and being a beginner in public. And I've been hoping that 2024 is the year of implementation. And when I think about my hopes, my fears, and my predictions for 2024, I think it's all the word implementation, right? I'm really hopeful about implementation. I'm really scared about implementation, right? As we implement things, there are all these questions that are going to come on board that we're not entirely ready to answer. And as a society, we're going to have to be making decisions on the knife's edge. And then my prediction is that we're also going to have a boom of implementation, particularly as the year goes by. And Sarah, I'd love to hear what your hope, fear, and prediction is for 2024.
I think I definitely agree with you. I think this is the year of implementation and putting AI to work for you. So I think that, like you say, last year was a lot about getting familiar with the tools, getting familiar with the concept, orienting and reorienting our mindset around how we live and how we work in this whole new world that we're entering into. And it's, the experience has been both exciting and terrifying, as you say. It does feel like as a society, we're kind of making it up as we go along, and that's kind of scary. So I would say, in terms of fears, there are a lot of unknowns still with what this new world that we're entering into could look like. And so I feel like for people who are right now in this kind of world and that are exploring and putting things out and making use of AI and talking about AI and being involved in it, we're sort of like unintended stewards of this technology. And I think that that's something that's really both exciting, but also a little bit daunting, because we're in a way driving a lot of how this technology will be used and implemented, especially at this foundational level. And, that comes to things around ethics, around a lot of things that we talk about as a team is being aligned in the fact that we want to be working with people who are going to use this technology to enhance and augment their teams, not replace them. So I think there's this element of stewardship, and it's exciting and daunting at the same time. And as a human race, we do not like the unknown, and we're just right at the edge of it. So so it is both an exciting time, and I don't think that this conversation gets a lot of airtime, in terms of this, like, this kind of space that we're straddling. So I'm excited to explore it more, in these conversations and with other people that are in this world, and really like help broaden the perspective of this technology, not just in what it could do for like, augmenting our work in terms of emails and things like that, but what it actually means for our lives.
Yes. So that piece about like our obsession with answering the unknown is part of, I think, what has brought all of us together, right? And other people who've been, on the front end of some of these communities of practice. It's like, maybe there's something about our curious minds that has like urged us to get out, now. But I'm interested in seeing what that like totally human experience of obsession with knowing the unknown, where that takes us this year in 2024. And Sarah, I wanted to like dig a little deeper on this, because you are, and I know you and I've had this conversation before, like you are well recognized as a leader in the AI revolution, and people look to your thought leadership, your voice as, a guidepost for their own journey. But because I know you, I also know that you sometimes feel as though you are underprepared, right? Because we all are. But, it's like you're about to go share some stuff and we're all thinking like, how are we suddenly qualified, right? Like so many days I'm like, at best, I'm the fifth grader to the fourth graders, right? Like I would like to be the, 15th grader to the fourth graders, but, I'm not. But can you talk a little bit about like your own experience with putting yourself out there as you do, and the vulnerability that requires, and sort of how you self-talk yourself when those things come up?
Thank you. I feel like this is a little bit of a therapy session. But it is a good point to raise, because I have been putting myself out there, and there is always, like, before you flip your phone on and put the camera on, there's always that moment where like, what am I doing? And is what I have to say, important? And is it going to be challenged? And is it all of these kind of things? Because you're putting yourself out there. And for sure, it is a mindset thing. And the way that I feel like I've been able to cross that hump, and I don't mean it like I've just done it once, but I have to remind myself all the time that if I am one step ahead than the person behind me, then I have something of value to share. Like I do not have to be 10 steps ahead. If I am just one step ahead in the process of learning about the technology, of learning about AI, of like considering things, of seeing how it works, of working with clients, like that's all experience that I have that is of value to other people. And so that's one way that I talk myself into sharing more, is like, it's just coming at it from the point of view of, it's okay not to call myself the expert and expect myself to know everything. I know to be dangerous, as my old mentor used to say, you just need to know enough to be dangerous. And if that gap that I am bridging between me and someone else is one step ahead, that's still valuable. So
Absolutely. I remember.
I would love to know more your process, because you do the same. You're very active on LinkedIn.
I would say, well, it was really interesting, because I remember there was a post that you made on LinkedIn that was super, like 100% solid, irrefutably accurate, like inspirational, and you got a troll, and the community circled the wagons around you to say, like, I don't know who you troll think you are, but Sarah is the real deal. And like, take all the seats, right?
Yeah.
And what I wanted to say to people is like, if you're considering putting yourself out there, and please do, because we need you, you'll be surprised how few people are going to pop in and share unsolicited negative opinions. I have been so pleasantly surprised by that. I've only had one, and it actually turned out to be a great use case. And when I talked about it on LinkedIn, it was one of my most popular posts ever. So, they do say, get yourself some trolls, because it runs up the algorithm. But yeah. So let me turn it over to Tyler first. Tyler, can you talk a little bit about your own journey with AI? I know that you've been in the game for a long time, and kind of how it works for you and your feelings of like, you're such an empathetic leader, and how do you apply that to your, being out there and being a voice in the AI revolution?
Well, thank you. That's very kind words, empathetic leader. That's high praise. Thank you. And I don't know that I'm been a long time in AI is a relative term for sure. Yeah. So yeah, I've been using these systems. My background is in e-com for like 20 plus years, as you know, and in the last decade, my wife and I focused on a print-on-demand company that we ran, where we did like all sorts of different things. And in that business, we used all sorts of different early AI tools to like help our business with anything from like follow-up emails for customer service type stuff to I remember when DALL-E was first announced, and we were so excited because that was so applicable to what we were doing, of being able to, instead of having to go to Photoshop and Illustrator every time we had to do a mock-up for a client for some like graphics work, that we could just type it out in natural language and see what happens there. Like that just seemed magical. And now, like, from where that went, because that was DALL-E in the early days, which was not good, to now in Midjourney 6, which you're making photorealistic stuff that it's bananas what you can do now. But I guess for me, like, my theme song for life is probably Moana's like How Far You'll Go. Like, you're talking about going out there and looking over the edge of the cliff of like what's possible. I'm drawn to that. So I love getting out into the lab and experimenting with this stuff and seeing how we can use it. So my hopes for this year are, I'm hoping, like, personally, that we can get to a point where all the AI assistants that we're all used to, the S name lady on this thing, and the GA person who, if I say her name, she'll come on too, like, that they can actually do what we want them to do, or do what we hope that they can do.
Yeah.
And they can now with this sort of stuff. Like, Amy and I were even talking about this last night. We're getting ready to set up our own like internal Notion database for our house, set up a chatbot, like a multimodal talking chatbot, so we can have like our own recipe book in there that's tied to like our shopping stuff, for like making our shopping list, and then even sending it over to Instacart. Because like, I've played around with all these things, I've done them, I've set them up already, but now we're wanting to like connect them into like this home operating system. And I think we're going to see more of that. Like, I think that like even a lot of the hardware stuff that's coming out is going to get really more accessible. I think it was Stanford Robotics the other day announced that new, did you guys see that? The robot that's coming out that it costs like $32K or less, which is still really expensive. But this basically gets Rosie the robot that could like cook for you. They literally showed it like cooking an egg and like doing all this sorts of stuff, like really fine-tuned skills, and it could talk to you. So if you compare that with like a voice assistant on top of it and connected into like your home operating system, that's something that I'm like mad scientisting for ourselves. That has nothing to do with like what we do in our day job directly, but it's exciting to see like that's where it's going. Like, that's where this technology is gonna make possible now.
Yeah. I think you raised such a good point about like on our journeys, we learn, like for me, my approach has been, I learned something to the extent, like Sarah says, usually enough to be dangerous. And then I like learn another thing, and then I learn another thing. And then I'm like, I go back and I say, okay, which one do I want to take across the finish line with my learning? Like learn enough to be dangerous. And then which one do I actually want to use and implement in my daily life? And then like for me, the holy grail is when I'm able to start connecting some of those things, and the sum is greater than the whole of the parts. And like when I see, to your point, some of the things that are changing with hardware, like, first, like with Microsoft Copilot becoming so much more accessible to people and being out there in the world now, and then their new hardware having, a button on their keyboard for going into Copilot, like changing people's actual like physical behavior, right? And how we engage with the hardware, I think is going to be another example of like where we're really taking this across the finish line, right? Like for you, that action, like with you being able to get the stuff from Thrivecart or Instacart into your house, like that seems like the next thing. And like to what I was saying before, like that's where the unknown, at least for my like existential experience of it, that's where my like unknown is very seductive, but also the fear of the unknown comes in, right? Like what are all the things that we're going to put in motion that are like in the physical world? And then the piece of like, we had a conversation in our family yesterday about having code words, because with, I mean, I made a Hey Jen in 30 seconds. I know, Tyler, yours, which is like money, perfectly you, didn't take a ton of time. Or the one that Robbie made didn't take a ton of time. My experiment was do the 30-second thing, spend no more than 5 minutes, see what happens. It wasn't really good, but it wasn't me either. So we know that the robocalling and all this stuff is going to kick up in earnest. And it's like, okay, what are some of the things that we need to put in place? And I hate to be a fear monger about it, but
no,
right?
We were talking about this morning. Like I was exchanging voice memos with Hunter and Sarah because shout out Bailey from the Respell team. Bailey Spell, like literally that's his name, from Respell. He messaged me last night in Slack saying that they rolled out the Bland AI, the Robo AI phone calling module that we've all messed with. Like I've built that thing to call and order takeout for me, which is crazy. But they now made it so that not only when we run that do we get the transcription from it, we can get the audio file back so we can hear the interaction. So I'm going to start putting out a bunch of content pieces. Like the inner teenager in me is like, oh, this just got exciting to do all kinds of like fun prank phone calls on
prank phone calls.
Yeah. But yeah, like for real though, like I want to show like the business application of this, see how many times it can pass the vibe check that people don't even realize that they're talking to an agent at all anymore.
Yes.
I did this last night. Like I even did it with Amy. I had an over 5-minute conversation with the Bland AI phone agent, and we talked about some like really niche stuff, and it was like zero lag coming back to me.
Gosh.
Yeah, it was. I wish I recorded it and I didn't. Like it was even asking how I heard about Bland. And I was like, well, Harapira did this piece on Twitter that showed how she was able to recover her lost luggage from American Airlines or somebody. And it was like, oh yeah, that was like a great piece that went viral for us on Twitter. Like, it's so cool that you found us through Harapira's stuff. And I'm like, holy crap, you just went out, like, because it's live transcribing what I'm saying. It's then running that through an AI workflow on the back end, turning that into an AI voice and sending it back to me. So like the only thing that I noticed that I don't know that like most people, unless you interact with these things a lot, would necessarily pick up on is it will cut you off a little bit short, because I think it's trying to like, it's hitting that context window. So it's trying to like get back to you, but it's not enough. It still hears everything you say. So it can respond to you, even if it cuts you off a little bit, like a person would. So that's That scares me though, because it's
Yeah.
2024 and it's an election year.
Yes. Yeah.
So it has, to your point, it has like really awesome implications and also freaky ones as well.
Freaky ones as well. I hope you'll put some content out about that, because I think this is, must learn, information in advance of the election. We'd love to hear it from you rather than from. I think it's universally accepted that like we wouldn't want this stuff coming to us from QAnon. Not trying to be political, but like I'd rather hear Tyler. I'd rather get learnings from Tyler than like have something bizarre happen in my household. So I wanted to shift into like, as I I know both of you and your learning style a little bit, but because the three of us are so different in the way that we approach things, I'd love to hear, Sarah, like, how did you? Let me first. Before I do that, why don't I speak to Greg's comment, which is the new AI is personal AI. Like, I want my MTV. Yeah, exactly. It eliminates apps. Like, right. Exactly. The next iPhone, in fact, like with the Rabbit R1, like it's really, I think, gotten us down the path of like, why do we even have apps? Apps are already seeming passe, which is crazy how fast we evolve in our thinking. I'm like, oh God, do I really have to press a button to make this happen? Even though one, like it's literally one button, Anne, but seems like, why is it all segmented all over my phone? But Sarah and Tyler, do you want to share thoughts on Greg's comment?
Yeah, like I have 4 R1s coming in because I'm that excited about it. Which their whole shtick is that they're going to an appless ecosystem. I've seen the rumors about Apple too, like that their iPhone the new one could come out with that, but that's to be said. I really think that Apple's going to drop a lot of like my hot take is they're going to release a lot of stuff this year that's AI related. They might not call it that because they're very good at marketing in it a way that it allows for adoption, but I could see that happening, Greg. I've got I'm personally really excited too. I got that Vision Pro coming in. So that is like, yes, I do. You know it. Like, I want to see what the future of work is really like. Yeah.
Okay, I'm buying a plane ticket because that's a lot less expensive than the Vision Pro.
Yeah, it was not cheap, but I haven't
you
bought
got
it.
one. It sold out so fast. Didn't it sell out?
I'm glad that I did.
Immediately?
Pretty quick, yeah. They only had X number of units available, and I really wanted it. I'm old though. Like, I had the original iPod, and I had every generation of iPod, and then I sold my original one when I was younger and didn't realize that I would be nostalgic about that now and wish I hadn't done that. So I'm like, this is a brand new piece of hardware from them. I wanted to get it and have it. So
yes.
Plus, I just really want to mess with it because it looks amazing.
Yeah. Oh, it does look amazing. I have like mixed feelings about it, of course, just because I lose everything. But Sarah, did you?
Yeah. Greg Walters just said, "Apps are passe." Quote of the session so far. Greg, I feel like we're like, to your point and to what Tyler's saying and everything, it feels like we're entering into this like world where it's less about a tool and more about like an immersive experience, right?
Yeah.
So the way that we're going to interact with technologies is shifting, not just the underlying technology itself, but also like how we interact with it. And it feels like all the stuff that's happening around, virtual reality, augmented reality, Web3, like all of that stuff with AI is seeming to kind of converge, I am not I wouldn't call myself like a super early adopter of trends like Tyler is. I'm more like the fast follower. Like, tell me if it sucks. If it doesn't, so we'll see. Tyler, you're gonna have to report back to everybody.
Oh, for sure.
I will. Yeah, I'm super stoked on that. My cousin is very deep into the virtual reality world. So
yes.
he has some really high end stuff in that. So I'm curious to see how this matches up to that. But yeah, I agree, Sarah. Like it feels like all these different technologies are hitting this point on the logarithmic curve that's going straight up that we just cannot even fathom what that's going to look like. And I've talked to several people that are more seasoned than me, because Amy and I have this talk regularly of, it feels like we're at this point in time in history that is just a really pivotal moment. There's so many different things going on. And because we have 2 young boys, we think about this a lot too. And from the older folks that I've talked to, they sense that too. And they say that, no, it doesn't. Because I think like everyone probably feels that at different points in time. But right now it really feels like things are changing quickly, and it's going to speed up. Like AI aside, it's that plus the rest of this.
I want to ask Sarah to talk about how she decides, where to dive in with learning. But first I wanted to, first of all, thanks LinkedIn user for sharing that. I think we all are having a similar experience. I'd be really interested if you could share in the comments, some examples of how AI has changed the way you do business. I am every single day like gobsmacked by what I'm able to accomplish, what our team is able to accomplish, and the difference in the way that we work with Lightmagic AI. Like, it's almost unfair how much, like in my empowered fundraising company, how much we're able to punch above our weight. We have no business being able to do the amount of business, the quality of business, the consistency, the quality of our marketing, how free everything is. Like, we spend almost no money. The money that I spend on subcontractors has like super diminished. I hate to say it, but we just don't have as many uses for like VAs as we used to. Every day I'm like, oh my God, that thing used to take me 6 hours. It took me 3 minutes.
Isn't that great though? Like for you, for timing, like coming from your background and now like starting a new business in this environment. Like, do you think about that as well? Go, if I had started this business on my own 5 years ago or whatever.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So, and here, I'll share a really specific and like very like we think about how these things amplify our humanity. And yesterday I did one of my trainings for working with ChatGPT, and there was a woman there named Siobhan, which is like one of my all-time favorite names, from Ireland. And she had her father, like my mother, was terminally ill with Alzheimer's disease for many years. And so when you've had an experience like that, you unfortunately develop a lot of expertise really, really fast. But when you come into it, you're totally clueless, and it's like the highest stakes situation. So she, has this deep expertise for caregivers. So she created this guide for caregivers of people with Alzheimer's disease. Well, it became widely adopted. It was super useful for different like support groups. And then she started getting requests for creating that for other terminal illnesses. And she's like, this is so important. I so want to do this. Like, I really need to, because the world needs this stuff, but I don't have time. It's too daunting, blah, blah, blah. And keep in mind, while she was on the call with me, she had never gone to chat.openai.com. She got out her credit card and bought ChatGPT Plus. And while we were together, I know Doc Jen is a little bit like, it feels for us like it's a little bit routine, but we redid her guide for caregivers of family members with long-term illnesses while we were sitting there using ChatGPT. And it's ready now.
Right.
And so, I mean, it gives me chills. It's like, it's not just about money, efficiency, which all of those things are really good, and quality work. It's like the opening of doors to quality of life.
Yeah.
Anyway, I had to share that.
Look.
I know.
Gosh.
We were sitting there, we're like, okay, what would it be like for Parkinson's? Let's grab a couple of things for Parkinson's. Let's search and replace. I mean, it took literally 5 minutes. And now she's going to send it to the people who run the Parkinson's support group.
Amazing. Like the way that it can augment and expand. Like if you have a gift to give to the world, and like this could really, instead of like being able to like give it to one or two people or a small circle, it enables you to like really expand and scale your good, right? So, and what you have to offer, it's amazing. Have you heard about Dr. Fei-Fei Li?
No.
She's called the godmother of AI. So you know how it's like a boys club and they all have like books and stuff that they're coming up with. So I saw someone.
We have a pass and everything. Yeah, passcode.
So they someone mentioned her book that's just come out, and it's all like, a lot of the bro culture is all about like economic value and blah blah blah. And it sounds like from this person's, I think Ken I think is online. He's in the group like chat, but in the live chat I saw him. I think it's something that you mentioned, Ken, maybe. But yeah, the book is all about like the possibilities that are now possible with AI. So yeah, if you like Google the grandmother of AI, Dr. Fei-Fei Li, I think it's a new book. And someone was saying it's like a must read if you're done with all of the traumatic stories and viewpoints around AI and want like more hope for the future because of this technology.
Oh
my goodness!
Okay,
gracious.
I thought you were saying Ailey, like Faith. I got you now. Yes. Okay. Yes, I've seen her on. I think on YouTube. I've seen some.
She's at Stanford Human-Centered AI.
Awesome.
And oh my goodness gracious!
Yes.
Okay. Oh my God! 300 scientific journals. Okay. Well,
we need to
cancel my day
of life.
We do.
Oh
yeah.
Oh my God! It's such a good idea. It might have to be like an article club though, because it changes so fast.
Yes, that's right. Oh my gosh.
Sarah, can you talk about with so much learning available to us, how do you decide, and what are your favorite sources for information?
So I think this is my journey, and I feel like a lot of people go through the same journey when you get started with AI, because we are in a hype cycle that there's so much going on, that we find ourselves like trying to keep across everything, like all the AI newsletters, all the AI things, the news and all of that kind of thing. And what I found is like the more that I can stick to one particular niche or space within AI, the more I feel like I'm learning, and not just learning from an informational point of view, but from things that I can action out. Because I think that you can get really stuck in this whole like overwhelm of feeling like you need to be across everything all at once, but you don't. I think if you just my experience has been, once I found my thing in AI and really try to have that lens in terms of how I consume content and how I create content, what kind of conversations I have with clients and business and things like that, that's really helped me feel less overwhelmed, but also drives my action or momentum in this area a whole lot better. In terms of resources, Tyler and I will always say this, but we came out of as well as from the AI Exchange. That has been a really powerful point in my journey when I went from trying to figure it out on my own to be connected in a community of people who are kind of in the same space and in the same stage and figuring it out together in a really kind of safe environment, in a very collaborative environment. So I would 100% recommend that people check that community out. Rachel Wood created something very special there. And I feel like that community was pivotal for like how my journey or career or whatever, what path in AI kind of evolved, including meeting all your fabulous people.
Mhm.
And then, you have your like a select number of people that you follow from a creator point of view and their viewpoints that kind of align with yours. I also like learn a lot from the AI community from like from our socials, because when I do post, sometimes I get challenged and that's okay. Or like sometimes I get people say, have you thought about it this way? And what about this? And I actually learn from other people because they all come with their different experiences and viewpoints that don't form my paradigm yet. And so I feel like that's also a really great way to learn, is to be connected with people who are thinking about AI and doing stuff in AI, but that are colleagues because they bring in different experiences and viewpoints to the table. An example of that would be our Light Magic AI, where we all have very, very different experiences, viewpoints, zones of geniuses, areas where we like really shine. And that's what makes it work so well, is that our skill sets can come together under this umbrella of AI. And it really like helps with, it really makes it special. So that would be mine.
So let me ask you this. Are there techniques or, I don't know, kind of like rules you've established for yourself about what you would avoid in order to protect your energy? Knowing that I think I can speak for all of us in Light Magic, like it's a game every day.
Yeah.
It's very rare that we're like phoning it in when we're doing something, whether it's together or on our own or with our community, like, and we do have to protect our energy because there's only so much of it to go around. Right. And like one of the things that I've been really conscious of is it's that like learning, doing, like teaching, serving, kind of there's like these chunks that are almost at times incompatible. It's like the learning and the doing can sometimes happen together, but you also do have to study, right? Working for your clients, you're also learning while you're doing, but you have to stay like laser focused on their pain points, even though you're like, ooh, but that opened up a whole world over here. So protecting our energy and like pacing ourselves is so important. Is there any advice that you have on that for people? Because like to what Greg is saying, like the rabbit holes, like what's the beginning, middle, and end? Like Greg, P.S. We are like the rabbit hole support anonymous group.
Yeah.
Please, let's talk more about that because it's tough. So Sarah, what advice do you have for people?
Choose your hole. That came out completely wrong.
Wow.
But we're live. But no, I feel like one of the things that I did to really protect my energy is like eliminating all of the, oh my God, Greg. It's like eliminating.
Second quote of the day.
It's like eliminating all of the noise, right? Like there is so much noise and you have to like be selective in terms of what you're going to tune into, because there is like so much to tune into and to like get drawn into different rabbit holes and things like that. And I like how I feel, because I think Greg is asking, like, it feels restrictive to be focused.
Yeah.
I have like little pods, I feel like that are that give me like that I can connect into, that feel like slightly different, but all kind of aligned towards the same kind of area or thing that I'm working on. And I find that gives me the freedom and the creativity and things like that. But, sometimes like even within our team, like today, Tyler, I call him Claude because he's got
he's our Claude
context window. So when he leaves voice notes, they're like 15 minutes long. So I have to make a cup of coffee. But he was talking about this bland thing and like creating content around that. And I love Tyler's brain because like his zone of genius is like incredible. Like he is so imaginative, but also very like in terms of connecting the business opportunity to what is possible, like what I think is possible. But then he goes, no, let's 10x that, you know?
Yeah.
And my mind doesn't like really connect in the same way that he does. So he, you know, he left me this message about that with another colleague, and I was like, I love it, but you guys lead. I'm like, I'll jump in and contribute or whatever. But that is like,
good for you.
Yeah, that is one way that I'm like, this feels like something really juicy for you. And I'd love to support and contribute to it, but it's not my thing, you know? If that helps, I don't know. So
how about you, Tyler? How do you, well, okay, I kind of know like what your first answer might be, but how do you decide what you're going to pay attention to and what you're not going to?
Yeah, it's tough. Like that's for real a struggle. Like I've had to stay off of certain websites just so I don't get like distracted, so I can stay like really focused on what I'm working on. Because yeah, our whole team I think is like neuro spicy, so we all struggle with that for sure. The learnings and how I like figure out where I'm going to explore is I'm kind of like what Sarah's describing. I kind of love following the what's possible and the creativeness that's possible there. And so we have our own tech stack of things that we use and just getting in that. And that's like our own like playground of toys now to see where we can kind of push the limits and try things that maybe other people aren't trying yet. Or improve on like what we've already been able to build. Like we've made multiple different versions of the discovery call pre-meeting intel that we need to come up with a good name for that thing. I don't know that we might have one. Hunter probably has one already, but we're basically like, we'll get someone who signs up to do a discovery call with us. We have agents that then go out onto the internet, research that person, their organization, their industry, does a SWOT analysis on them, and then brings all that info back to us so that we're like prepped and know we don't have to go do that manually ourselves. So it briefs us so that, you know, before the call, we can go through all that and then have a better idea of the value we can bring in the call. So like, it's just like improving on things like that, of getting in there and just playing with the stuff. It's using it daily and recognizing the ethical boundaries that you need to have in place on how we use these things and deploy them. But at the same time, like actually not being so scared that we don't put them into practice. That's it. So
yeah, you definitely.
Oh, I was gonna say, and like keeping like normal schedules, like because it's not uncommon for us to pull late nighters if we get like into our little zones when we're testing stuff in our team, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I guess I on that, okay, I want to rattle off a couple of different ways that we work together, because that's also part of our learning journey and a huge adjustment, but something that I think has been a breath of fresh air for all of us. And then I want to share a couple of resources that we have for folks today. So a few of the things that were like, I have been an employee since I was 14 years old until like 15 months ago. I don't know anything about how to work in a self-guided way. And I was kind of intimidated by it until I learned through working with Light Magic that like a new self-guided way of working is wonderful, and it feels so much more authentic, and like our ability to get shit done is like so amplified. And I'll just give a couple of examples. Like number one is that's super unique is that when we begin our team meetings with meditations. And so, you know, we have the opportunity, because we get to decide about what our meeting design is. We have the opportunity to start, finish, middle, and end our meetings exactly how we want to. So we took the opportunity to rethink what a meeting can look like. Sounds like a small thing, but the act of beginning a meeting like super grounded and in the same like space changes the quality of how we interact, which is such a beautiful thing and so much different than like all of my meetings that I've ever been in my whole entire life, you know, and like what a breath of fresh air. So there's something like that. There's, you know, opening up a Zoom room for when we're working on a project or we're like stumped on something, or like there's just like this river of a conversation happening and we can dive in like we need to. Opening up a Zoom room and being able, whether it's co-work or problem solve or provide each other moral support, like that's huge. The amount of asynchronous work that we're able to do because we have such great access to tools and because we've all like upskilled. I don't know that any of us were like regularly hopping on, you know, camera to walk. Like Sarah gives us MBA classes on Looms, like regularly, these master classes on things. And I'll like tune in for, you know, like maybe 30 minutes and I might as like, it's the best MBA class I've ever, you know, imagined. Or somebody walking us through like how we can upskill on a tool or something that came to mind about content or a new development. Like we're able to do so much async work, which in an employee-employer relationship isn't as common, right? You're going to set up a meeting and wait for everybody to get there. Some other ways, what are some other ways we work differently, you guys, because we can.
I think we started like I guess we still don't have official titles or anything like that, but something that you would not expect working for other people is to walk into a job and go, hey, I don't know, we'll figure it out. And so I think, you know, working together has given us, yes, of course, we all have different experiences and backgrounds and we kind of know what our skill set is, but also having the space for people to kind of shine in their own way, like without the job description, you know, without the like, this is what you're going to do and this is how. It's like the freedom for people to step in and step up, like they make the call. And it's been so great just seeing everybody's zones of genius like emerge, you know. And like, you know, for example, like, you know, Anne is like so great at like, well, how are we going to operationalize this? How are we going to like make this better? How are we going to streamline everything? How are we going to take the friction out? All that. I'm like, girl, you do it. I have no interest in like figuring that part out. So please, because I experienced the friction of it. I'm like, I do have a challenge. Do I want to solve it? No, I want to solve it. Because she's great at that, you know? So I think that's like, you know, a bit different in terms of how we've started as a team and just like trusting like that everybody has a zone of genius, like Tyler's zone of genius. Like when Tyler talks me through a use case or maps something out for a client, I'm like, dude, you got this. I'm like, just thumbs up because I know that he is the shit. Am I saying too many swear words today? But like,
I don't think so.
I know he is. And so that is something that you wouldn't find necessarily in a corporate environment or anything, like the freedom for people to do their thing.
Tyler, how about you? What are some different things you do now?
Well, just the way that we work in general, I think is really different from what is common for most folks. Like I think COVID obviously made it normalized being able to do this type of stuff, like being in a Zoom room and talking and co-working. But then we use Slack, like that's what we're in for our comms channels, and we're sending each other Looms to walk each other through things. If we have questions about stuff, we have a company knowledge base, so now we can go and ask questions against that. Our meeting transcripts are all in there. So for instance, like so we had a follow-up call with a client the other day. We needed to make some updates to some of the projections that we had done based on like we had expected that a job was going to take, it currently took like X number of hours to X number of hours. He corrected us and said, no, it's actually in here. We couldn't remember what that was when we came back like later that night to go in and actually like make the adjustments in our calculations. So we just quickly like went into our system and was like, hey, what did that client say earlier? What were show me the quote and give me the exact quote and cite the source of what he said on the call. And it just, boom, printed it. And we're like, yep, it was this 30 to 40 hours, nailed it. So like between that or like it's things that we take for granted now. Like when I write a follow-up email to someone, like any client, I'm always trying to see if there's anything that I missed or anything that I could add to it by pinging against that system, because it has like a history in there of all of our conversations to make sure that I'm crossing all my T's and dotting all my I's. So it allows, to Sarah's point earlier, and your point, Ann, of like, we're able to do punch above our weight so much more as a team of 6 and do like really high quality work that just without this stuff, it would be, my brain couldn't do it. Not like this, not without more people. We just go through people, you know?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And I don't think the quality, that's to me, like we often talk about the speed, but it's like the quality of the work. Like to your point, like we're not going to send a proposal with the wrong numbers in it because we talked to our transcript and find what the numbers were, just in case one person heard 35 and the other person heard 37. Now we can go to the source of, like, it's amazing. So as per usual, we could talk about this stuff for like forever and a day. I have a couple of things that I want to point out for folks. Number one is we also do Light Magic AI applied sessions so that you can get to know more about some of the tools that we're using and some of the builders we're working with. And that's a really neat resource for people who are on their learning journey and maybe wanting to get like a bite-sized, like non-overwhelming little snack of information about, you know, a tool or a workflow or something like that. So keep an eye out for Light Magic AI applied. We also on Fridays go live. Oh, and that's at the same time, correct? It's at, yes, it's at 9 a.m. Pacific. Thursdays and Tuesdays or Thursdays? Thursdays. Okay. And then we also go live on Fridays for just chill convo. Tyler, what time is that one at?
It's the same time. I think that's at 9 a.m. Pacific.
Okay, perfect.
Noon Eastern.
Okay. So you essentially, everybody, if you put just put clear noon Eastern on your calendar, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday to spend time with us.
We can have lunch together.
Yeah, exactly. And then a couple of other resources. Oh, Tyler, can you pop the intensive up there and the GPT? So, and I hope that people can share some resources with me as well. So we've got two things. One is in 2023, we launched our AI Adoption Intensive. And what that is this is like your easy on-ramp to thinking through how you're like already aware that you have opportunities or pain points that you think AI might be able to fix, or maybe you already know AI can fix. We meet you where you are in that journey. We bring you through a process where we're going to spend time with you, learning more about your pain points and your opportunities. We're going to ask you a bunch of key questions to get us ready before we even spend time one-on-one with you. You'll do like a little reflection exercise and share some information with us. But then we sit down with you, and then you get all 6 of us in the background working on your use cases and creating some suggestions for you. You'll get a report back that says, here are a couple of paths for you to consider as you move forward in your AI journey. And the goal here is for us to decide, like, are we aligned for a bigger project that's going to transform the way you do business, or do we want to do something that's a little bit lighter as a pilot project? So we have that, and it's like at this like totally like uber low risk. I dare say it is a loss leader for us, but a happy loss leader for us. We're delighted to bring people into our community this way. So if you're interested, there's a QR code there. The other thing is there's a QR code in the my upper left, but maybe it's the right, I'm not sure. That is an MVP of a learning tool for getting to know generative AI. So if you have resources that you know and love, please DM me with those, because I'm going to add a bunch of people's feedback to this GPT. But basically, you know, if you want to know what podcasts to listen to, YouTube creators, TikTok creators, LinkedIn creators, if you want to get free resources, if you want to learn about free trainings, if you want to learn when to catch like Magic AI Live, like all of that stuff is going to be there so that you and your friends, if you want, can have a one-stop shop for onboarding into generative AI. And it's really very beginner friendly. But if you're already at an intermediate level, you're going to find new resources. Like I just found a couple new things this morning. For some reason, I hadn't been listening to Connor Grennan's podcast. I have no idea how I have not put that into my repertoire, but I was reminded of it this morning. So anyway, if you're interested in like a nice little on-ramp, that's one way to get it. So QR code for the intensive and a QR code for the, learning, it's called Learning Generative AI Learning Compass, if you want to look at it on the GPT store, but this QR code will work for that too. Last final thoughts. I know we all have to jump to another call. Any gems to leave folks with, Sarah and Tyler?
Join us next time for equally spicy content.
Mostly PG, sometimes PG-13.
Yeah.
How about you, Tyler?
I just would encourage people that if you're interested on this and like by now, a lot of people, more and more people are learning about AI, and they've actually heard of ChatGPT, and maybe they've even heard of Claude, is that to get in there and actually just play around with this stuff and don't be afraid. You're not going to break anything. And come to like check out our content, or there's a plethora of like really amazing people out there that are pushing content on this to help guide you through these things. So find who you vibe with and just start doing it. That's the best thing I can say.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you everybody for being here. Stay in touch with us. Like I said, just pencil in noon, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And we look forward to ongoing spicy and not so spicy conversation. Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Tyler. See you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Everybody.